Live from your grave.
Watching Otero
Are
Studio.
you a white belt or a black belt? That's the way I look at art. For me, art has always been the different stages in martial arts. As soon as you start drawing, you've officially gotten your white belt. That's when you take the journey to start creating art and getting out there into the world, start really learning your techniques and getting down all your different strategies for how you're going to attack a piece of art. Then, once you start practicing a lot and you really start putting in the time to get better, you start talking to other artists, learning a little bit from them. Then you move up a rank. And a lot of people don't know this, but before, when karate, first started, karate, there was only two belts. Well, technically one. It was white, and then you kept that belt so long that it would turn to different colors. Eventually, it became a black belt. So that's where the black belt comes from. And my old sensei used to tell this story all the time in class, but I always thought it was interesting because to me, whenever a kid comes to the art table, or my old students would tell me, when is it a good time for me to stop, or start rather. And I always tell them, I'm like, look, martial arts and art aren't very different. And to me, the black belt, when you become a black belt in martial arts, that's when you truly start martial arts. And I feel the same way about art. In a lot of your eyes and in the eyes of people who come to conventions to see me and buy my art, I'm considered a quote unquote black belt. But to me, looking at other artists, they're not. They're the true masters, and I'm still learning. They are Miyagi, and I am Daniel-san. I always tell people, just don't give up. I'm not a firm believer on that talent is the only thing. Because when I was a kid, so many of my friends were into art, and we'd draw all the time, and to me, my stuff was always like the worst. I always looked up to my cousin Joey or my friend Tito. And there was another guy who lived in our neighborhood called Range. And he would always do the graffiti around the neighborhood, and he always did some crazy amazing stuff. And till this day, I still follow him on Instagram. If you guys get a chance, his name is Range, FUA is his tag. But so to me, especially being a little kid, I'm like, well, I don't really have talent, but I enjoy it. And I think that's why my teaching style has always been about having fun. I'm always having fun when I draw. It is my center. It is my zen. It is where I'm happiest in life, is sitting at my table creating, and not just drawing. It could be coming up with a story, or even just doodling. Sometimes especially now that I'm back in school, the teachers sometimes will be lecturing, but the way I learn is I learned unconsciously, if you would say, I learn from hearing while I'm doing something. I get bored when I'm just listening to someone talk. Even friends, like if they're telling me a story, I'm like, I gotta be doing something. And I think that's why it's cool to hang out with your friends and you play video games. And I'm always going off on tangents, but when you're sitting with friends and you're playing video games, you can have a conversation and you're not getting bored of the conversation because you're playing a video game. It's the same thing with art for me. Whenever I'm drawing at the table, the reason why I have to mute the original video is because I'm either watching a documentary, I'm watching another YouTuber's channel, I'm listening to music. So those things enter to my brain while I'm doing something, and I think I think that's it's a good way to learn. And even if you're not quote unquote good with something, you still you're still getting your outlet. You're still getting it out there. You're still doing it, and even if it's just one drawing a day, 30 minutes, an hour, just sit down with a sketchbook, even line paper. Who cares? You're not selling this. It's not going to go in a portfolio. It's just to draw. And I did the math a couple weeks ago. I'm like, yeah, they always say to be a master you have to have 10,000 hours under your belt. And a master in karate is a black belt. So it's kind of that same parallel. And so for me, 10,000 hours, I've been drawing most of my life, but it didn't really pick up until ninth grade when I went to School of the Arts. And at School of the Arts, you have 3 or 4 hours of studio time. On top of that, I would draw in my classes. I would draw when I get home. So I think I'm almost at the 10,000 mark if I haven't passed it already. But it when I did the math, it would have, if I did an hour a day, I think I would have hit 10,000 hours 5 years ago. So I think that's where the math came from. But I still don't think of myself as a master. I know I hear it all the time, from you guys and from people who buy my art. They're like, oh, this is amazing. But it's never enough for me to just stay at plateau. And I think that was my biggest driving force to go back to school. I know that when I went back to school, I didn't want to just get by. And I just found out I got a 4.0 this semester, which, is huge. That means all A's, but that just shows that I really pushed myself. It was tough, but a lot of the professors, they're really great. So I know when I push myself, I get better. And a lot of you guys have been saying it. The art has definitely jumped up in quality. And I kind of want to do a video down the road where I pick up, video from late 2017, because that's when the channel I really started doing stuff with the channel, was late 2017. Get one of those videos and then get a fairly recent one and kind of do like a side-by-side comparison, just to show, because another thing is, if you keep your artwork and you go back to it, you can really see the growth. And I feel it's the same way with my YouTube videos. Like, I look at some, sometimes I'll play some of my older videos and I'm like, holy crap, like, this was bad. But I wanted to get it out there, and slowly I learned how to use the right cameras. My dad built me this camera rig. It's pretty much just like a stair banister cut into 3 pieces and drilled into my desk, but it works. I'm not going to complain. Money and time, and I put a lot of that into the channel, and now I'm at the point where I got a rhythm down. So I do my speed drawings, I'll do some unboxings with the kids, they enjoy that, and then I live stream. So I have a rhythm, and it allows me more time to focus on the art aspect. So now when I'm actually drawing and I have a video in mind, I can just go straight to the art aspect. So going back to the whole idea of drawing every day, getting better, don't rush to become a black belt. That's what I gotta say. When people rush to a finish line, they forget things. And just like in martial arts, there's other styles. So to me, like, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is your painting. You're similar to karate. You got wushu, or you could even say not even tai chi, but maybe your taekwondos. That would be digital art. So just because you master one aspect of art, there's still others that you can still grow and learn from, and you don't have to all do them separately. Just to give you an example, I've been really interested in working with water and paint. It's not my strong suit, so to me, I feel like a beginner, and I enjoy it because I don't have bad habits that I picked up. You know, it's a fresh take because there's still bad habits that I have inking. As you can see here with this Ryu, I have a lot of bad habits that I from before I became a professional. Like this is stuff I was doing in high school. So it's those little bad habits that you try to break from, but every now and then you need that little shortcut. Like you see there where I use the hatching techniques to show shading, even though I'm going to color him. But at the time, I wasn't sure if I was going to color this Ryu, and eventually I'm going to color it. But I thought it was pretty cool to not speed this up, and you kind of see the Ryu getting built up. This was a Ryu not used for reference, and I wanted to use this footage for this conversation because Ryu is a black belt in the Hadouken. So I feel really strongly, and it's not just because I love martial arts and art, so I found the comparison. I've always felt that way. You know, martial arts wouldn't be a thing in my life if I didn't love art too, because art is what led me to martial arts, and then martial arts is what got me my love for art to kind of reignite. So they've always been hand in hand. You know, if I got kind of out of love with martial arts, then I'll play a video game like Tekken, and I'm like, oh man, I really want to get back into it. But then the art in Tekken really drove me to do some art, and even my story that I've been working on for a while now is very centered around martial arts. You know, there's an underlying story, but the true message in it is, you know, work hard. So it's all combined. But in my story, working hard, you actually make it out. You know, you can be someone and always focus on your friends. You know, take care of your friends and family, and be better. The character's constantly always getting better, and there's a lot of parallels with my art in it because I always feel like I hit a roadblock, and when I hit roadblocks, which happens to every artist, I always kind of back up from the wall, and I'm like, okay, what do I need to do to get over this hurdle? And I don't have depression. I don't, I'm not super stressed out, but you do get moments where you do get stressed out, and those things, the real world always comes in and kind of attacks you. Like, I'm not talking about actual things, but the real world will always keep you from having fun. That's my biggest observation from, being around 35 years is, the 35, or wow, I'm skipping a year now. Is that they always say having fun, time flies when you're having fun. I always feel like life just kind of knows when you're having fun, so it always throws a monkey wrench at you. So I feel like when I'm doing my art, even when I'm doing paid art, I'm still having fun because I'm doing art. I'm getting paid to draw something, and to me that's amazing. So I just don't like it when you're super focused on something and then life throws you a wrench, like what happened 2 weeks ago with my father-in-law. But it's life. You got to get used to it. But that's one of the observations is like, as much as I want to be drawing nonstop, life gets in the way, and I think that's part of learning how to find time, and that's another thing is time management. Oh man, sometimes I have to figure out, like, late at night, kids are asleep. I tell my wife I gotta work on something downstairs. I am literally working on a commission But at the same time, I know I want to put out a YouTube video. So in between commissions, I'll work on a sketch. And then sometimes I'm just like, you know what? I feel like playing a video game. And instead time management, it's like, okay, I have to allot a certain amount of time for the video game. I can't spend all night on a video game because my time is very finite. So I have to really focus on what I'm going to do. And so, if I want to play Forza, I'll play for like an hour. And usually it's closer to when it's bedtime, so I can just shut it off, go to sleep. But sometimes I'm like, all right, I can't even touch video games for 3 or 4 days. I have to just get to the grindstone and just draw. So it's cool. Some YouTubers can actually playing video games is like their productive outlet. So they can actually play video games and make footage. For me, it's more of just a relaxation, and video games do help me creatively. Like right now, I am really into Pokemon Shield. I got it for my kids, and I ended up getting like super into it. So I'm really enjoying that, and it does feel like a time waster, but at the same time, I'm like, oh, this character's design's pretty cool, or I'm like, oh, maybe I can kind of come up with a Pokemon, or this design's cool. So I find inspiration in video games, so it's not necessarily just a time waster, but finding the productivity in something that you like to do is key, right? So it's like when I used to work out. Obviously, I can't work out right now just because of mountain of health issues going on right now, and I'm just trying to take it easy. But when I did work out, what I would do is I would actually take like a little small sketchbook with me into the gym, and then like jot notes down, because to me the gym is kind of like when you take a shower. You get the best ideas in the shower, but at the gym, like I'll be working out and all of a sudden I'll just get an idea. I'll grab my little sketchbook and jot some notes down, or draw a quick little picture. And I'm at the dojo, so I'm there for a while. So as soon as I'm done working out, I'm usually waiting for my kids' class to get done so that I go into the waiting room. And there, I actually brought my drawing laptop so I can draw it. So I'm constantly always trying to be productive. I always feel like if I'm not doing something, I'm wasting time. And, I'm already past the midlife point. So, time is very valuable. And I feel like if I waste any of that time doing something that's unproductive, then I'm missing out. And so when I play video games, I try to be productive and make sure I'm learning something. Pokemon, I'm learning designs. Assassin's Creed, I'm learning about history. Even though it's history I already know, it's fun to know more about history. And now that I'm taking art history classes in school, it's all that thing. It's productivity. Productivity is huge for art, especially if you're planning to do this professionally, because if you are not productive, and let's say you have 2 or 3 commissions, the last thing you want to do is have a commission waiting around for a while. Just a good example, I have a pumpkin that I've been working on since October. It's not that I'm not being productive, is I've had many failed attempts, between clay and different mediums. So it's slowed me down. But let's say I wasn't a productive person, I took on that project, and then it just stays there forever. That looks bad, and you'll never get anything done. If you're laser focused too much, you can lose out on possible commissions. Doing multiple commissions, especially if you ever work for a firm or ad agency or a video game company, cartoon, I guarantee you they're gonna have more than just one project you're working on. You're going to be working on multiple things, multiple assets, all that stuff. So it's being productive and making sure that you can work multitask. I'll give you an example right now is I am doing some finishing touches on my book, because I am going to release it through Amazon like an ebook, just to get it copyrighted. I was worried about copywriting because I thought it was going to be expensive, but through Amazon, when you release a ebook, they copyright the book, so it would be copyrighted at that point. So that's my workaround to make it free. So the workaround to make it free was to release the ebook, and then it's copyrighted. So at that point, you don't have to pay for copywriting. You still have to do some legalities as far as trademark and stuff like that, but I can get the book released. So I've been doing little touches to that. I'm also working on these sketch cards that you see. These are for my upcoming conventions in April and May. I'm also going to be teaching again around the April time, doing some classes in Newark. So I'll be teaching kind of like an after-school program for kids that want to learn how to do anime and cartoons and stuff like that. So on top of that, then I have commissions, and so I don't know if you watched the video, the Dungeons and Dragons video. So that was a commission, and then some constantly have multiple things on the plate. And I'm not saying to have all the pieces of art, on the table at the same time. That's just unrealistic. But what I'm saying is, like, let's say you have 30 minutes, you can knock out, a quick sketch card. Do that sketch card. If you know you got 2 to 3 hours, then you work on a bigger commission. If you have some downtime, you're not really home, but you have your laptop, you can do your finishing touches on your book. So it's constantly just trying to be productive. Even when I go to Comic-Cons, sometimes some of the artists want to go out after and have a couple drinks or go out to eat. Depending on the Comic-Con, sometimes I'll just head home. If it's close by, if it's someplace where I know I have a hotel, I'll just go back to the hotel and work. But I do like to relax too. So being away from the house can help too. So excuse me. So I know those things. The productivity and finding your zen is important. Making sure you stay productive and making sure you don't give up. Always draw every day. Don't like I said, even if it's just a quick 30-minute sketch, you're getting that muscle memory in your hand, your hand-eye coordination, your brain, everything's working at once. So it goes to the 5 years from now, you're gonna look at that one spot that you were having trouble with, and then all of a sudden, boom, you can draw quickly now. It's not really a problem anymore. It's very easy to really get that one part together. So, that's all I really wanted to say as far as that, because I hear it a lot. I don't feel comfortable, putting myself out there. I don't feel comfortable, telling people I want this much for my artwork, or it comes with time. I always also suggest too, if you want to do art professionally, is to maybe take a class on business management or finance, something like that, where you kind of learn how the business side of things, because that's one thing that I always struggled with, and I had to learn the hard way, between bad contracts with when I was starting out, not charging enough, and then you're working on a project for 3 weeks for less than minimum wage. Those things can really damper, especially when you're starting out. If you have one bad experience, you're kind of like, yeah, not for me. It's kind of like when you get that first part-time job and you're like, what did I sign up for? I don't want you to have that experience. Learn from others' mistakes. So just learning the ins and outs of the business aspect will help you down the road. And a lot of artists do not have that business acumen. So getting that in your arsenal early on is going to save you tons of headaches down the road. Especially when you do start getting really good, and then you got small companies asking for logos or mascots, or you get hired on a book. You're already equipped to be like, yep, this is how much I want. This is how much it's going to be for revisions. So if a revision is like, let's say you show them your finished artwork and it's not what they like, you can say, okay, I'm going to give you up to 2 revisions, no charge. On the 3rd or 4th revision, there would be like a surcharge. It's stuff like that. A lot of artists don't think about that, but some clients will take advantage of you. For example, if, let's just say you had a client, did a logo, they didn't like it. Or throughout the whole process, they're like, oh, this is great. This is great. This is great. And then you go to turn it in. And then they're like, well, can you tweak this? Can you tweak this? Then you're down to like your 10th revision. And this is why I like to record what I work on, because constantly taking pictures. I'm always in constant contact with the people I'm doing the commissions for, because I want them to be like, tell me if they need something changed now. Don't tell me when it's finished. So I'm constantly like, okay, do you like where it's at so far? Yeah, I like it. And you keep going. But the revision part gives you that peace of mind that you're not working for free at that point, because time is money. So if you're working constantly on something, and by the end of it, let's say you get $100, and you worked on it for 2 weeks, it's really worth the $100 that you charged. Between the years of practice, if you went to school, supplies, your time, all those things you have to take into consideration when you charge. So to me, when someone comes up and they're like, oh, I want a sketch card, I know that my sketch cards take anywhere between 30 minutes to an hour, so I go based on that. I know I don't use as much marker, so all those things I take into consideration. But sometimes you get someone who wants a sketch card and they want a lot on it. You have to be able to turn around and say, I can't do all that on a sketch card. So you have to know when to say that's too much, or no, you can't do that. And some people are afraid to say no or say but. Don't be afraid, because remember, this is what you know you can do, and if you know you can't do it, there's nothing wrong in saying you don't know or you can't. I think this is where my skepticism comes from. I'm a skeptic. I'm not a believer, and I'm constantly questioning things. But at the same time, you have to know when to say I don't know or no. And so to me, knowing your limitations is not a bad thing. So don't ever think that, oh man, I can't say no to this person, or I can try, because the old adage, the customer's always right, is not true. If they hear you say I can try, to them that's yes. And even though in your brain you're like, oh, but I said I could try, they heard yes. And so just know your limitations, know what you can do, know your strengths. Don't rely just on the dollar signs, because what's going to happen, best case scenario, you do really good, but now you're out all that time you spent. And yeah, they might refer some people to you, but they might not. Worst case scenario, now you've gotten 60 hours into a $100 piece. Now they don't refer you because they didn't, you revised it to the point where it's not even something recognizable that you did, and they don't refer anybody to you. Those are the worst case scenarios, and don't get discouraged by it, but it happens. Some people are just not, they don't communicate well, and communication is key. So it's coming up on the end here. I just thought it'd be kind of cool to do another impromptu discussion. I think I should just do a weekly one of these, kind of like the Art Sensei podcast. I wish I had a co-host. My daughter she's great. She's just not, if she was a little older, maybe we could have a more of a podcasty type conversation. We have the Socially Awkward podcast that we did once, but we talk about other things. I wanted to keep this more directly on art, and she is a creative person, but I digress. Yeah, I don't want to go overtime here, but I want to thank everybody for watching, and you guys and gals, always keep me going. Well, whenever I don't feel like the channel's getting anywhere, you guys are there. So thank you so much, and don't forget to always keep it over 9,000. Take care, and see you later.